I'm John Law, this is Chasing Cars, and that is the Land Rover Discovery 5. Now, unsurprisingly, this is the 5th generation of Land Rover Discovery, which took over from the 4th gen car when it was launched in 2017. But it's quite a different vehicle to the one which it replaces. Now, we'll come back to that in a little bit, but the car we have here is a sort of mid-upper spec SE D300 with a lovely turbocharged inline 6, the new Ingenium motor, and it features the R-Dynamic package, which means it's not that well suited to off-roading. So I've actually not really done any hardcore off-roading in it, just a tiny little bit of dirt, because I think with these 21-inch wheels and that body kit, this car really lends itself a little bit more to that Chelsea tractor kind of vibe. But of course, if you want to see me review a lower spec Discovery, perhaps pit it against its stablemate, the Land Rover Defender, let me know in the comment section down below and we'll see if we can organise a bit more of an in-depth off-road test. But I've done about 500 Ks in this thing in and around Sydney suburbs to see just how well it copes in an urban environment. So if you want to hear more about that, keep watching the video, and if you haven't done so yet, I'd love it if you could hit subscribe below. The first thing I love about this Land Rover Discovery is its plush and cosseting ride, owing to its air suspension and multi-link setup. This D300 inline 6 turbo diesel is smooth and gorgeous, and such a nice replacement for the old D200 4-cylinder. At 2.5 tons, it might not come as a surprise that this thing has a feeling of mass, a feeling of heft that gives it this sort of majestic boat-like quality. Unfortunately though, that doesn't totally carry into the interior, where some of the plastics do have creaks when you're going over bumps. One of the things I don't love about the Discovery 5 is that you have to delve into the options list to bring it up to spec with its competitors. For example, these heated seats are an $800 option on this mid-spec SE. As handsome as the Discovery 5 is, I think it's missing some of the off-road swagger that its predecessor, the Discovery 4, has. Now, I for one think that the Discovery 5 is actually a very handsome vehicle. It looks almost concept car-like. It's very clean, very tidily designed, and with this R-Dynamic options package, you get this aggressive front bumper, these big wheels, and just this clean, sporty aesthetic, but it's not one that really follows the Discovery lineage. Now, you do have one of those details up on the roof, that double bubble that the Discovery's always had, but it's so much more subtle than it has been in the past that it just doesn't really feel so much like a replacement for the Discovery 4, but rather a slightly more affordable version of a Range Rover Sport. Now, let me know down below what you think, but I reckon if you like the Discovery 4's old rough and tumble looks, then you're going to be better served by Land Rover's Defender. But that's not to say this car doesn't look good, it's just a different thing. Now, at nearly 5 meters long and over 2.2 meters wide from mirror tip to mirror tip, the Discovery is a big old SUV. And that means it has a pretty decently sized boot. What more fitting place to test this vehicle's boot size than with soccer balls at a soccer pitch? Because this really is a bit of a Chelsea tractor. A soccer mum's car would be the old school way to say it, but anyone can drive this car. Any soccer owning parent. Anyway, we can fit 54 soccer balls in here, and that equates to about 1,137 litres of claimed cargo capacity by Land Rover, and then with the third row of seats up, but it's still pretty decent. And the third row back there is actually remarkably comfortable for a full-size adult. The other thing worth mentioning is this classic homage, this little flip-down tailgate, which is now electrically operated on this car. I'm not going to do it right now because of the soccer balls, but I will chuck some beer all over it. And then of course, because it's an air suspension vehicle, you can actually raise and lower it, so if you're shorter of stature or taller of stature and you've got to load heavy items, it can conform to what you need it to do. I reckon that's a nice little touch. So let's close that boot down and have a chat about how much it costs to run this Discovery. The rated fuel consumption for the Land Rover Discovery with the D300 engine is 7.5 litres per 100 Ks. Now in our combined testing loop, we got 8.4 litres per 100, which I reckon is pretty good for a 2.5 tonne bus. Now, in urban environments, that is going to blow out a little bit. Over about 80 to 100 Ks of deep urban testing we did over the weekend, I saw 13 litres per 100, but that's the sort of thing you expect with a vehicle this size. Now, as for servicing, it's going to cost you $2,650 to maintain this Discovery for 5 years or up to 130,000 Ks, and the warranty is 5 years and unlimited kilometres. Now, I should mention, over our week of testing this Discovery, we did have one consistent error message, an error message saying it was locked in two-wheel drive mode, though in testing it still seemed to be sending power to all four wheels, so it's yet to be confirmed exactly what that is. If we get a solution, I'll let you know. But I'd love to hear your Land Rover Discovery ownership experiences or any Land Rover product. Not if your mates had one and it's gone wrong, but if you've honestly lived with one for some time. And I'd also love to hear if you want to see us run one as a long-term test vehicle. So in the front of the Discovery 5s, there's a real feeling of airiness and sort of solidity to the steering wheel and all the things you touch, even if some of the other cabin plastics are a little bit creaky. Now, I'm going to talk you through the price on this car because as standard, sticker price is about $113,375, but this car with about $21,000 worth of options is going to set you back $134,000 as specified. Now, some of that stuff's off-road and towing stuff, so the off-road accessory pack plus the active differential, and then you've got the tow pack. That adds up to $8,000, but to get the sunroof, tinted windows, and the family pack is nearly $4,000. And then you've got to pay a little bit more money for stuff like these premium carpet mats, which are $640, and you also have to pay $800 or so, I think exactly $806, to get these heated 18-way adjustable electric leather-appointed seats. So it's a bit of a funny one because doing all those options brings this car's list price before on-road costs, this SE spec, which is a mid-spec, above the HSE, which is the top specification pack you can get for this Land Rover Discovery. So it's kind of like you can configure the car however you like, which I understand is something that people are going to love. Certain people are going to love that, but it can be a little bit bewildering on the configurator. But anyway, once you're in here, once you're looking at everything, it all looks pretty handsome, and you've got some nice quality materials up here on the doors. This is super plush, you've got a nice armrest, and this sort of Land Rover signature kind of neoprene feel material sort of appoints all the heavy traffic points. And then of course, because it's a Discovery, we've got our own captain's armrests as well. Not that you necessarily need them anymore because you've got this really big center storage cubby. Now that does bring me on to the practicalities of this thing, because it is really great for storing loads of stuff, all the stuff that you need to have with a family, like water bottles in the door cards. The door cards are huge, you can fit so much stuff. You've got this little extra tray here, you can fit a phone or a key or whatever. Then underneath this sliding cubby, we've got 2 cup holders and 2 little accessory phone holders, that sort of thing. That's pretty cool. And then you can slide that back and you've got a bit of hidden storage under here, like quite a lot. In the original press pack, it says you can fit 4 iPads, but I think that might be sort of pushing your luck a little bit there. Anyway, there's some other more cool hidden storage behind this HVAC system control where I've got my sunglasses, and it's a really nicely sort of flock-lined little pad. Speaking of HVAC, this is actually really simple to control. You've got these 2 dials, very neatly integrated little panel here, auto, you can adjust where it goes, and you can adjust temperature on here, and then pull it back to adjust fan speed, and then push it in, and then you get your heated seats. Doesn't seem to want to work for me with the car turned off. That does bring me to some electrical quirks, not so much in the front cabin, but around the back at the boot, the electric tailgate doesn't really like to lift itself up that well. It seems to be a little bit sort of circumspect about doing it sometimes. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but yeah, I mean, you all know the stories of Land Rovers. I don't need to cover that really in this review, and I can't really speak to it because we're not living with this thing long term. Anyway, about the technology, this car's got the 11.4-inch touchscreen running the latest Pivi Pro system that's just been upgraded with Amazon Alexa here in Australia, so you can go, "Hey Alexa," when it's set up with your profile and your account, and you can listen to your favorite songs. You've also got wireless charging here, though that is a $455 option. You've got plenty of USB charging points, 1 USB-C here, and then pop this bin, you've got another USB-C, and then you've got a USB-A as well, and a little tray for storage of phones or whatever. And then this card's got the optional cool box as well, so you can keep your non-alcoholic beverages nice and cool. Of course, we've also got this digital driver's display, which is decent, though it doesn't offer as much interaction as something fitted to, say, an Audi Q7. And then finally, we've got the 14-way Meridian sound system, which has a really nice level of power and bass and clarity. It sounds really good, though perhaps not quite as gorgeous as that in the Volvo V60, but absolutely adequate. Now you can spec it up higher, going for the Meridian surround sound system, but that's going to cost you extra money as well. On the whole, the Discovery 5 is spacious and feels generally pretty well appointed up front. So here in the second row, and things are actually pretty dark back here in this Discovery, despite the fact that the family pack adds 2 sunroofs, because the second sunroof is actually a little bit too far back for you in the second row. It's really for the advantage of those who are going to be traveling in the third row. Now, the other thing that makes it quite dark is this black leather upholstery. Now, you can get this car with white scented seats with black siding. That's sort of the press pack standard look, but I don't really like that at all. I think that white and black theme, the two-tone, is no good. But you can let me know in the comment section down below whether you like that, because I know it's all personal preference at the end of the day. What's not personal preference though is how much space we have on offer, which is pretty decent for me at 6'2". Now I have a good amount of legroom behind my driving position, and tow room's pretty good, certainly better than the previous generation car, which had a sort of body-on-frame monocoque hybrid, which was basically referred to by everyone as a body on frame, whereas this car gets the new aluminium large SUV architecture shared with the Range Rover Sport, which this car feels rather a lot like inside, and also the full-size Range Rover. Now, other things we've got going on in the back here, that family pack adds 4-zone climate control as well, so I've got my own climate control dials, my own fan speed and that sort of stuff, plenty of places to charge stuff, 2 USB-C charging points, 12-volt socket, and then a regular USB-A as well. Got a flip down armrest here with 2 cup holders. That's great. Nice decent door bins, soft touch materials continue back here, and it all feels really well appointed. As for the squab, I've got it in quite an upright position at the moment to fit maximum soccer ball in the back, but you can electrically recline and then manually slide forwards and backwards. So I can slide up to there, or I can slide back to there to give me a little bit more comfort. And for me, actually, it's best to have it in pretty much all the way back. It's not the most spacious second row, despite being a really physically large car. Now, there are a couple more touches. You've got this little flip-up holder here. You can get an accessory to fit an iPad holder, or a tablet, I should say, holder. And you've also got yet another USB port. So it feels really well set up for having families in this car. Plenty of space for tall teenagers and small children alike. But let's check the baby seats before we jump into the third row. Here in the comfortable middle seat between 2 baby seats, I've actually got a really decent amount of room, and fitting them is a breeze because Land Rover's ISOFIX covers are just so simple, just a flap of leather covering them. I like that a lot. You've also got top tethers on all 3 seats, and then 2 further ones in the third row. And as for getting in and out, you've got these natty little door handles here, which will help when you're off-roading in this car, but also mean it's really easy to get into the middle seat between 2 baby seats. All right, time to jump into the third row of the Discovery, which is semi-electrified as this seat goes past my face and obscures me, but then you have to manually slide it out of the way. And it's quite heavy, but it's not too bad. Now, the actual opening is pretty tight, but once we're back here, pull that back, slide that all the way down, and I know it's quite dark back here, but the actual space on offer isn't too bad. Especially if I've got this stuck in sort of a semi-upright position, I'm actually pretty comfortable. I've got my own little soft pad up here too. No cup holders back here, though you do have this little square storage space, I guess for a carton of chocolate milk. But yeah, altogether, I'm actually pretty impressed with the third row. And I should add also that there are 2 more top tether points behind these seats if you need to carry more baby seats, though it's probably not the best way to do it. So, what is the Land Rover Discovery 5 like to drive? Well, I'm pleased to report it has the majesty almost of the Queen Elizabeth II, such as the size, the weight, and the heft behind the steering wheel. They're the immediate impressions you get. Now, this car's size, $130,000 as tested price, 900mm weighting depth and 280mm ground clearance mean that in theory, you could compare it to something like a Land Cruiser 300 series. However, I'm not going to do that because I know in the comment section there would be absolute madness down there, because really it's not a competitor for that car. This is, although it's got all the electronic trickery, you know, air suspension that raises and lowers, off-road modes, advanced terrain assist, and a electronically actuated rear limited slip differential, it's definitely more of a Chelsea tractor kind of car, that kind of GLE competitor, BMW X5, Volvo XC90 kind of car. It's got that real smooth, wafty urban ride, which I love. The air suspension is really well tuned to absolutely take the most of this car's comfort. And as I said, it goes up and down and it reads the terrain as well in front of you, and it seems like it does a really good job. Yes, the 21-inch alloys fitted to this SE do add a little bit of urban harshness, but really it's so minor that I'm not going to really call it out as an issue. And surprisingly, when you get this Land Rover out of the city through a testing set of bends, it actually steps up to the plate really well. Again, that air suspension activates and seems to curtail this car's roll pretty well, given its 2.5-ton mass, 2,512 kilos to be exact. And you can make decent progress. There's a good amount of grip for the sort of car, and the steering feel is there enough to let you kind of trust it and kick on a little bit. So as a touring vehicle, it is really well suited to Australian conditions with that comfort. Of course, you can up that by going for the lower spec S and then optioning all of this car's kit on top and still getting the smaller 20-inch alloy wheels. So that's an interesting option if you wanted to do that. But yeah, this car is really rather lovely and cosseting. Now, some of that also comes from the D300 3-litre turbo diesel inline 6 engine, which is new as of 2021 in Australia, and it's got 221 kilowatts of power and 650 newton meters of torque. Those are really decent outputs, means that this car is capable of hitting 100 k's an hour in 6.8 seconds according to Land Rover, which is again pretty good given this thing's absolute sheer size. And it does such a great job out on the road. It's muscular, flexible, and that 48-volt mild hybrid system really does add a little bit of crispness to that throttle response and means when you're sitting around town it stays whisper quiet. Now finally, on to the safety of this vehicle, which is really very much bolstered by the electronic suite. Now it did get 5 stars in its ANCAP test back in 2017 on its original Australian launch, but it doesn't have the most up-to-date AEB. It's got forward AEB with pedestrian and cyclist detection, but it doesn't have reverse or junction AEB. You've got a lane keep assist system and an adaptive cruise control system that works okay, but it's certainly not the best in class and does feel a little old next to some competitors. But at least you do have a really crisp, high-quality 360-degree camera, which helps because the visibility out of this Discovery is a little bit compromised. You sit kind of low, especially compared to a Discovery 4, where you used to sit quite a lot more high up, and in a Defender as well, you sit a little bit higher than this car. So a little bit set down, and then you've got these big expanses of metal back in the rear 3/4, which do impact visibility a little bit. But as I said, because you've got the 360 cam, it's not such a big deal, and that makes this car really easy to live with in urban environments, as does that plush suspension tune, and as I spoke about earlier, that pretty decent fuel economy. And of course, you've got a 3.5 ton towing capacity, and I reckon this thing would tow with absolutely no problems. Though we haven't towed anything in our testing period, so let me know down below if you want to see some Land Rover's towing capacities tested. If you like this car, then Chasing Cars can help you take the next step. If you want to organise a test drive of the new Land Rover Discovery or download a brochure that has all the features in it, click on the handy link we have below the video. So, what do we think of the Discovery 5? Well, Land Rover's definitely filled the one car hole left by the Discovery 4 with 2 vehicles. This Discovery feels a lot more suited to urban cruising with that lovely plush suspension setup and also that super smooth D300 inline 6 turbo diesel. And if you want to go a little bit more rough and tumble off-road, there's now the new Defender. So I guess they've got you covered. But of course, let me know in the comment section down below what you think of the Land Rover Discovery and the Land Rover range in general. And if you haven't done so already, we'd also love it if you could hit that subscribe button and the bell icon. And as always, thank you for watching Chasing Cars.